It's very important that you hear what I'm about to say, especially if you're over 60. Because every morning, right when you wake up, there is a small decision you make without even realizing it. And this decision can quietly open the door to dementia. Most people think memory loss comes only from aging, or from a lack of vitamins, or simply from having a bad day. But that's not the truth. The real danger begins much earlier, inside your breakfast plate, in tiny habits that seem harmless, but slowly weaken your brain. And the worst part is that most older adults believe they're doing everything right, when in reality, they're skipping the one simple protection their brain desperately needs. I want you to pay close attention, because if you've been forgetting names, misplacing objects, losing your train of thought, or feeling your mind slow down, there is a high chance that your morning choices are silently accelerating this process. You may think, but doctor, I eat well. I don't do anything wrong. I understand. Truly I do. I've heard this for more than 25 years in my office. But even healthy people, even careful people, make one breakfast mistake that weakens the memory centers in the brain. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what this mistake is and what you can add to your morning that acts like a shield against cognitive decline. It's not a pill, it's not a supplement, it's not a complicated routine. It's something simple, delicious, accessible, and powerful. And almost nobody over 60 knows how to use it correctly. When you place this food on your breakfast plate, something extraordinary happens inside your brain. Inflammation decreases, blood flow improves, your neurons communicate better, and that fog that has been bothering you begins to clear. Before I reveal everything, let me introduce myself so you understand why I speak with such certainty and care. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Collins, and I am a geriatrician specializing in memory and dementia for more than 25 years. I've dedicated my entire career to understanding why older adults lose clarity, why the brain ages faster in some people, and most importantly, how to slow down this process in a simple and compassionate way. I speak to you not only as a doctor, but as someone who deeply respects this stage of life. I know how frightening it can feel when the mind doesn't respond the way it used to. I know how frustrating it is to know exactly what you want to say but forget the words. I know how lonely memory loss can feel. And that is why I want to give you clear, gentle, and real guidance. The type of guidance nobody explained to you before. I want you to imagine just for a moment what your mornings could feel like if you started your day with a brain that wakes up with energy, clarity, and lucidity. Imagine remembering appointments without hesitation. Imagine feeling confident again when speaking, walking into a room, or making decisions. This is not a dream. This is not a miracle. This is the natural result of giving your brain the right fuel at the right time. And today we're going to talk about 3 specific foods, blueberries, walnuts, and real butter, that have shown extraordinary results in protecting the brain from dementia. You may already eat them from time to time, but the way you use them in your breakfast can be the difference between strengthening your neurons or weakening them. But before we get into the powerful foods, I need you to hold on to one thing. Dementia does not usually begin with severe symptoms. It begins with tiny signals, so small that most people ignore them. A pause while speaking, a forgotten name, a misplaced key, a moment of confusion when reading. And what scares me the most is how many older adults normalize these signs. They think, it's just age. They think, everyone forgets things. But no, these early signs are a warning light from your brain, and if we catch them early, we can slow them down dramatically. That's why what I'm about to tell you matters so much. So let me open this first door for you. When you choose the wrong breakfast, your brain experiences a spike in inflammation that lasts hours. This inflammation weakens neurons responsible for memory formation. But when you choose the right breakfast, something extraordinary happens. Your brain receives antioxidants, healthy fats, and natural compounds that protect the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory. This is why the morning is the most important moment to protect your mind. It's the moment that defines whether your brain will struggle or stay strong. And in just a moment, I will reveal to you the first food that older adults overlook every day, even though it is one of the strongest natural protectors against dementia. When we talk about protecting the brain after 60, most people imagine complicated treatments, expensive tests, or long lists of rules they need to follow. But the truth is much simpler. Your brain responds to small, consistent habits, especially in the morning, when it is most vulnerable and also most open to receiving nourishment. And this is why the first food I want to reveal to you today is one that many people underestimate. Some even think it's just a fruit, when in reality it is one of the strongest natural shields against cognitive decline. I am talking about blueberries. If you could see what blueberries do inside an aging brain, you would never again skip them in your morning routine. Their deep color is not only beautiful, it is a sign of extraordinary antioxidants that act directly on the parts of the brain that control memory. These antioxidants reduce inflammation, improve communication between neurons, and increase oxygen flow. For someone over 60, this is the equivalent of giving the brain a gentle but powerful wake-up call. When you eat blueberries in the morning, you are telling your brain, you are safe. You can function well today. One of the reasons I insist so much on blueberries is that they work even in tiny amounts. You don't need a large portion. A handful is enough to activate their protective effect. And it doesn't matter if you mix them with yogurt, oatmeal, or eat them alone. What matters is consistency, because the brain thrives on stability. Each morning that you include blueberries in your breakfast, you are lowering your risk of accelerated memory loss. You are calming inflammation. You are strengthening the very areas that dementia tries to attack first. Now, let's talk about the second food, which is often ignored, yet plays a remarkable role in supporting brain health: walnuts. Many older adults avoid nuts because they believe they are too fatty or too heavy. But walnuts contain one of the most important components for the aging brain: natural omega-rich fats that nourish the neurons. These fats support the membranes that wrap around each cell, helping them stay flexible and responsive. A rigid neuron struggles to communicate. A flexible neuron learns, remembers, and adapts. Every time you eat a small portion of walnuts in the morning, you help stabilize your brain's energy for the rest of the day. You may notice that you stay more alert, more calm, more focused. The memory lapses that used to appear mid-morning begin to fade. This is not magic. This is biology responding to the correct fuel. And the older you are, the more your brain needs this type of healthy fat to maintain clarity. When I explain this to my patients, the first thing they usually say is, "Doctor, why did nobody tell me this before?" And I always answer with the same calm certainty, because most people underestimate how much the brain depends on food. Before we continue, I want you to pause for a moment and feel something very important. You are not powerless against memory decline. You are not doomed to confusion, forgetfulness, or disorientation simply because you crossed a certain age. Your brain is still alive, still adaptable, still willing to respond to the right care. And what you choose to eat each morning is one of the easiest and most powerful ways to protect it. And now, let me reveal the third food, one that surprises many people, because for decades they were told to avoid it. But when used correctly, it becomes a silent protector of your mental clarity. I am talking about real butter. Not margarine, not spreads, not artificial mixtures, just real butter. Pure butter contains natural fats that help stabilize blood sugar, improve absorption of certain vitamins, and support the brain's energy production. When eaten in moderation, especially in the morning, it prevents the energy crashes that often lead to confusion and mental fog later in the day. People are often shocked when I say this. They tell me, "Doctor, I thought butter was bad for me." And I understand why. There has been a lot of misunderstanding about fats. But your brain is made mostly of fat. It depends on healthy fats to function. What harms the brain is not real butter. It is the artificial, processed substitutes that pretend to be healthy but create inflammation. When you place a small amount of real butter on your toast, on your eggs, or on your warm vegetables in the morning, you are giving your brain a steady, reliable form of energy. This reduces irritability, improves focus, and supports memory retention throughout the day. These three foods, blueberries, walnuts, and real butter, form a powerful trio that strengthens your brain from different angles. One protects your neurons from inflammation. One nourishes the cell membranes that keep your thoughts sharp. And one helps stabilize your energy so your mind remains clear. This combination is simple, affordable, and accessible to almost everyone. And yet, so many older adults begin their day without any of these protections. They skip what their brain needs most and unknowingly expose themselves to the very habits that accelerate cognitive decline. In the next part, I will reveal something even more important: the main mistake people make at breakfast that directly weakens the brain and opens the door to dementia, often years before the symptoms begin. Before I reveal the most powerful breakfast protection for your brain, I need you to understand something essential. Dementia does not begin with dramatic symptoms. It begins with tiny fractures in your mental clarity that almost no one notices, a word that disappears from your mind, a familiar name that suddenly feels distant, a moment when you walk into a room and forget why. These moments are not just aging. They are early signs that your neurons are struggling, and when your brain is already under this pressure, the wrong breakfast can intensify that struggle even more. But here is the part most people never hear. Just as certain foods harm your brain in the morning, there is one specific combination that strengthens it in a way that is almost immediate. It is gentle, natural, and deeply protective. And it is the combination I want you to remember with all the care in the world. If you place blueberries, walnuts, and real butter together in your morning routine, even in different forms, even on different days, you create what I call a memory shield. This shield works in layers. Blueberries clean inflammation. Walnuts nourish the neurons. Butter stabilizes energy. When these three processes happen together, the brain enters a state I describe as cognitive calm. A brain in cognitive calm is a brain that learns, remembers, organizes, and makes decisions with much more ease. But there is one food among these three that stands above the others. One that has shown, time and time again, that it can slow down memory decline in a way no medication has ever fully matched. This is the revelation many of my patients wait for, and it is the one I want you to hear with an open mind and an open heart. The number one protector of your memory in the morning is blueberries. Yes, of the three, blueberries are the strongest defense against dementia. Their antioxidant power is extraordinary, but what matters even more is the way they interact with the hippocampus, the part of your brain that creates new memories. When older adults eat blueberries regularly, the hippocampus becomes more active and more resilient. This means clearer thinking, better recall, and stronger mental organization. This is why I insist on them so strongly. They directly counteract the processes that dementia tries to accelerate. And here is the most important part. The effect of blueberries is cumulative. The more consistent you are, the more your brain responds. Missing one day doesn't erase the benefits, but creating a habit builds a foundation that stays with you year after year. I want you to imagine your brain as a garden. Blueberries are the water that keeps the soil alive. Walnuts are the nutrients that nourish the roots. Butter is the sunlight that brings energy. When these three come together, your garden thrives. Now let me tell you something that may surprise you. Your brain does not need complicated meals in the morning. It does not need a plate full of ingredients or exotic foods. It needs stability. It needs clarity. It needs choices that calm inflammation instead of feeding it. Most older adults unknowingly choose breakfasts that push the brain into stress. They start their day with sugar spikes, heavy processed foods, or refined carbohydrates that flood the bloodstream and confuse the brain's energy pathways. When this happens, neurons become overwhelmed, and the first thing they sacrifice is memory. This is why my approach is always simple. I want you to wake up and make a decision that tells your brain, I am supporting you. I am giving you what you need. And the easiest way to do this is by placing something rich in antioxidants, healthy fats, or natural stabilizing nutrients on your plate. Blueberries, walnuts, and butter create that foundation better than almost anything else I've studied over the years. Let's go deeper into why butter, specifically real butter, completes this trio so powerfully. Older adults often experience sudden drops in energy during the morning, moments of dizziness, confusion, fatigue, or irritability that seem to come from nowhere. But these drops are actually consequences of unstable blood sugar. When your blood sugar rises too quickly, your brain becomes overstimulated. When it falls too quickly, your brain becomes foggy and slow. Real butter helps prevent these extremes. It smooths your brain's energy curve, creating stability that supports clearer thinking. Imagine your brain as a lamp. Without stable electricity, the light flickers. Butter helps keep the flow steady. And a steady brain is a brain that thinks, remembers, and organizes with confidence. But I know what you're probably wondering right now. You're thinking, Doctor, I understand the foods that protect me. But what about the foods that put me at risk? What about the things I'm doing wrong that I don't even realize? And that question tells me something very important. You are ready for the next part. Because while the right foods protect the brain, the wrong habits can quietly undo everything. And there are three specific mistakes, common, subtle, and dangerous, that almost every older adult makes at breakfast. These mistakes accelerate cognitive aging more than people imagine. They disrupt the neurons, they increase inflammation, they confuse the brain's signaling. And the worst part is that they feel so normal that people don't even question them. In the next segment, I'll show you these three enemies, clearly, calmly, and without judgment, so you can remove them from your mornings and finally give your brain the peace it deserves. Now that you understand how powerful your breakfast can be in protecting your memory, it's time for a truth that many people prefer not to hear, but you deserve to hear it clearly and with compassion. There are three morning mistakes that silently weaken the brain. They feel harmless, they feel normal, and they feel familiar. But inside your body, they create a storm that accelerates cognitive decline. And the reason I speak about them so firmly is simple. I have seen too many older adults suffer needlessly because they were never told how toxic these habits can be to an aging brain. The first enemy is sugar. I know how comforting it can feel to start the morning with something sweet. A spoonful in your coffee, a little jam on toast, a sugary cereal that promises energy, or even a glass of juice that seems healthy but floods your bloodstream with sugar in minutes. But here is what happens inside your brain the moment your blood sugar spikes. Inflammation rises rapidly, neurons lose their stability, and the hippocampus becomes overwhelmed. Sugar creates a roller coaster effect in your brain, forcing it to fight for balance when it should be calmly preparing you for the day. This internal chaos weakens your memory. It makes you forget things more easily. It reduces mental clarity. Even a small amount, when repeated daily, becomes a chronic assault on your neurons. You might think, "But doctor, I only use a little bit." I understand. Truly. But the aging brain becomes more sensitive with each passing year. What once was a harmless habit can now be a direct trigger of confusion and fog. Removing sugar from your breakfast isn't about punishment. It's about giving your brain a quieter, more stable environment. When sugar levels stay stable, your thoughts become sharper, your words come more naturally, and that sense of mental heaviness begins to fade. The second enemy is something even more common: refined flour, especially bread. I know how traditional bread is in many households. It feels comforting, familiar, safe, but your brain does not interpret it that way. The moment refined flour enters your system, your body breaks it down almost as fast as pure sugar. The spike is sharp, the crash is harsh, and the inflammation that follows affects your memory pathways. Many older adults believe their morning confusion is a symptom of age, when in reality it is the direct effect of starting the day with bread or similar refined carbohydrates. And here is what worries me most. Bread creates a false sense of satisfaction. You feel full for a short time, but your brain does not receive any real nourishment. No antioxidants, no healthy fats, no stabilizing nutrients. Just empty energy that rises and falls too quickly. When I ask patients to replace refined bread with even the smallest portion of blueberries or walnuts, the difference is remarkable. Their mornings become clearer, their thoughts more stable, their mood more balanced. Bread is not the comfort your brain believes it is. It is a trap that slowly weakens cognitive resilience. The third enemy is one that hides in almost every kitchen: processed and industrialized foods. These foods can be dangerous because they pretend to be convenient and harmless. They may come in colorful packages, they may last a long time on the shelf, they may taste pleasant, but inside your brain they cause a type of inflammation that is far more aggressive than natural foods ever could. Additives, artificial flavors, preservatives, and damaged fats disrupt the delicate chemical balance your neurons depend on. Processed foods confuse your brain's signals. They affect memory, attention, and emotional balance. When you eat them in the morning, especially on an empty stomach, the damage becomes even stronger. Your brain begins the day fighting inflammation instead of building clarity. This is why so many older adults wake up feeling alert. But within an hour of eating a processed breakfast, they become tired, distracted, or mentally slow. The brain simply cannot extract nourishment from something artificial. Let me tell you this with all the tenderness and honesty I can. Your brain deserves better than these enemies. It deserves protection, calm, and nourishment. It deserves mornings that support your clarity instead of sabotaging it. And the good news, the truly comforting news, is that removing these mistakes does not require dramatic changes. It only requires awareness and gentle adjustments. If you spend years unknowingly harming your brain, imagine what can happen when you consciously begin strengthening it. Replacing sugar with the natural sweetness of blueberries, replacing bread with nourishing fats from walnuts or butter, replacing processed foods with simple, whole ingredients. This is not a diet. This is a gift you give to your mind. A gift that improves your memory, your clarity, your mood, and your confidence. Now that you know the enemies, and now that you've seen the foods that protect you, you are ready for the final part, where I will guide you to make these habits stick, so your brain feels supported every single morning. Now that you understand the foods that protect your brain and the silent enemies that weaken it, I want to guide you gently into something even more important: how to make these changes feel natural, comforting, and sustainable. Because it is not enough to know what harms you or what helps you. What truly transforms your brain is consistency. Small, loving choices repeated each morning become powerful medicine for the aging mind. I want you to take a deep breath and imagine your next breakfast. Not tomorrow, not next week, just the very next one. Imagine you wake up, walk into your kitchen, and instead of choosing something rushed or processed, you choose something intentional. something that respects your brain, something that tells your neurons, I am protecting you today. This simple moment, repeated once, becomes a beginning. And beginnings matter more than people think. Your brain does not need perfection. It needs direction. Each morning you include blueberries, walnuts, or a small amount of real butter. You are giving your brain direction. You are guiding it toward clarity, stability, and resilience. Even if you only choose one of these foods on certain days, your brain immediately recognizes the support. It begins to function with more calm. It begins to build stronger communication between neurons. It begins to store memories more efficiently. And little by little, you begin to notice changes that may feel small at first, but they grow. You might feel that your thoughts are smoother in the morning. You might feel that the fog that once took hours to lift now disappears faster. You might notice you can recall names or details with more confidence. These are signs that your brain is responding. These are signs that your effort is reaching the deepest parts of your memory. And please remember this: your brain is never too old to improve. I have seen 80-year-old patients regain clarity. I have seen 90-year-olds sharpen their thinking simply by nourishing their brain consistently. Age does not close the door to improvement. It simply requires gentler, more intentional steps. The key is giving your brain what it needs before the chaos of the day begins. Morning is the moment when your neurons are most sensitive, most open, and most receptive. This is why breakfast can either be your strongest defense or your greatest vulnerability. By choosing simple, natural foods and avoiding the harmful ones, you create an internal environment where your brain feels safe. And when the brain feels safe, it performs better, emotionally, cognitively, and physically. I want you to feel empowered by this, not overwhelmed. You do not need drastic changes or complicated routines. You only need to build a new relationship with your morning. A relationship based on care rather than convenience. A relationship where each decision strengthens your mind instead of exhausting it. Imagine yourself opening a small container of blueberries, placing a few walnuts on the side, or spreading a delicate layer of real butter on something warm. These are gentle actions, familiar actions, and yet they carry a level of protection that very few people ever realize. The brain thrives on calm nourishment. It thrives on natural compounds that reduce inflammation and stabilize energy. It thrives on routines that support memory rather than disrupt it. When you remove sugar, refined breads, and processed foods from your mornings, you create space. Space for your neurons to breathe. Space for your memory to function. Space for clarity to return. The absence of these enemies is just as powerful as the presence of brain-protective foods. And when these two forces work together, removing what harms, adding what strengthens, the effect is not just nutritional, it is transformational. You deserve mornings that make you feel awake, present, and secure. You deserve a brain that supports your independence, your identity, your relationships, and your daily life. And this is why I speak to you with such firmness and tenderness. Because dementia is not something that appears suddenly. It builds slowly, quietly, and often invisibly. But so does protection. So does healing. So does resilience. Every clear choice you make in the morning builds a stronger foundation for your future. And every time you choose to protect your brain, you are choosing to protect your memories, your personality, your history, and your ability to live fully. I want to end our conversation by inviting you to reflect gently on something. Which of the 3 mistakes we talked about today have been part of your mornings? And which of the 3 protective foods do you feel ready to add first? Tell me in the comments so I can guide you personally. And if you want me to bring you another simple, powerful habit to strengthen your memory even more, just let me know. I will be here, always ready to help you protect your mind with clarity, calm, and care. Thank you for spending this time with me. Your brain deserves this attention, and I'm honored to walk this journey with you.